Boys. Okay, welcome back to the channel, man. This will be a follow-up to my video, Homelander Deserved Better and So Did We, which was a reaction and review of the season finale. In this video, we'll be looking at the season as a whole, going over some things, and I want to make an effort to touch on some points you may not have heard already. A lot of it probably will sound familiar because there are some unavoidable things to discuss, but anyway. And you know, in the grand scheme of things, I know this doesn't really matter. It's a TV show, but really, this used to be my favorite show. You know, I remember watching season 1 when it came out thinking, like, man, this show was made just for me. You know, I don't watch a lot of TV shows. I say that just to put my perspective into frame. You know, I'm not hate watching this show. The last thing I want is to come here and talk about how underwhelming it was, how bad the writing was, how unsatisfying it was. I never thought I would even have to, but that's where we are. I want you to think about when you watched season 1, and quite frankly, this is really meant for people that watched it since season 1, not just got on board when it became popular. And that's not to say that those opinions and those viewers are irrelevant, but I do think that's important because for a time, if you did watch when it came out, then season 1, and I'll even throw in season 2, which personally I don't think was nearly as good as season 1 anyway. I think that season is pretty overrated. But whatever, if you've watched since then, that was all you knew of the show because that's all there was. And it makes the differences so much clearer to you. My original exercise of asking you to think about how you felt when you watched season 1 is to think about, for example, how you thought you would feel whenever Butcher finally got to kill Homelander, right? That's just an example. Did it feel as satisfying as you thought it would? You know, this impossible mission, this suicide mission. I would say no. It felt like 10 times less than what I thought it would. The show just changed, man. It doesn't even look the same. You know, this season felt extremely cheap and small. It doesn't feel like a lived-in world anymore. The way the show is shot, it doesn't feel as grandiose, I would say. Because despite it being lower budget overall, you know, in comparison to the MCU or any cinematic movie, the earlier seasons still felt grand and almost big budget. Like it felt as if I was watching a movie, straight up. And once you watch this season with that in mind, you can't unnotice how small and cheap it feels, which is just a shame. Another thing is the humor. It was garbage. The show can be naturally funny through a lot of the dialogue and situations the characters are in. Homelander is naturally funny. Butcher is naturally funny, but when they force garbage like 2 soups in one season having their powers be a long dick and long balls, it's like, okay, Love Sausage was one thing, and he's been a character since season 2. Was it really necessary to introduce the guy with the long balls? So what, his parents shot him up with V and that's what it did? Also, Frenchie's funeral, you know, the asshole jokes going on for way too long. Kamiko's dialogue damn near the entire season. Even that one scene where Annie and Huey are laying on the hood of the car looking at the clouds and she says something about one of them looking like a dick or just something stupid like that. Something like Deadpool and Wolverine works because you have one to bounce off the other. 2 Deadpools acting exactly the same together would be annoying as fuck. And that's what this show feels like now. So many of the characters talk the same and have the same humor. There's a joke when the boys are going into that old building, I think episode 4 or 5, the episode where Soldier Boy locks Homelander in that radiation cage and the boys are all fighting each other. When they're walking to that building and they see those dead bodies and Butcher makes a comment about something like they look ugly as fuck or whatever, and Huey's like, of course, being the little twink, tells them to have some respect, which I guess is fair. But then MM tells Butcher, he's like, you should take her to dinner first. See, like, that shit is funny. It's chemistry amongst the group we've been following this whole time. You know, it's like they sacrifice so much of that throughout the show, really, to have them all hate Butcher all the time and always be in conflict. It's just ridiculous because it's always the same thing, you know? Season 3, what I think something that I loved about it, and I think a lot of people without even noticing, is it felt good. Like Butcher says in that season, it felt good having all the boys under the same roof and just having them be on the same fucking team, especially Butcher and Huey. This season, they had the episode where they get captured by the psychics, Huey and Butcher, and for once, they get to speak to each other. I mean, not for once, but that's what it felt like, where they're on the same side and they don't fucking hate each other. You know, their dynamic is so good, and that has been missing for so long. And like I was saying in season 3, it was him and Butcher and Huey are the ones that took the temp V. And so they were together for a lot of that season. And then you throw Soldier Boy in that dynamic between the 3 of them. It was just fucking good, man. It was great. And they did have some of that this season. Like, they were all together, the boys, for most of the time. But really, I want to emphasize on Butcher and Huey. I think that dynamic, I think the whole show should have been revolving around them together. I think they spend way too much time on Annie and Huey's relationship, and I just don't care about that dynamic anymore at all. It was good in season 1 because, you know, it's like Huey, our main character at the time. And it's nice to see him go through, the traumatic shit that he went through and then to end up with Starlight. That was cool. And even like this Starlight, what they've done to her, trying to make her seem like Queen Maeve was when Starlight joined the Seven. I mean, she's just become not fun, we'll just say, not fun to watch. And I don't like how much time we spent with her anymore. I really think they should have dialed that back and gave Huey and Butcher more time together. Because look, in the end, it would have even made the end more impactful if they were getting along more and then Huey has to kill him in the end anyway. I think that would have been just so much more impactful. I think actually when I say that, it's pretty much whenever Annie joined the boys. I think that's when it fell off completely. It was cool having Huey on the boys and then Annie with the Seven. And I mean, that just made things more interesting, at least. What I did like about Annie this season, though, I mean, I think it only happened a couple times, is that she would tell Huey, like, bro, you need to fucking man up. Like when Huey was trying to talk to Translucent's son and he was trying to be all sappy and shit with him. I get it, but this is something that they failed Huey. See, he is the same soft, and you know what? Look, I'll even say it. Butcher even tells him at the end, he's like, you stayed the same, even all the shite I put you through and all. Maybe that was the point. But I still feel like he's the same pussy as he was in season 1. There is a part in season 1 where Butcher tells him, he explains to him the feeling of when you're about to tip over in your chair, when you're leaning too far back and you're about to fall and you catch yourself. He told Huey that Huey used to always have that look on his face. And then, but he had told him that, okay, but now whatever, you're better now. You're a man. Whatever. I forgot whatever fucking Butcher shit he said. But that completely went away. And like in season 3, when Huey comes in and asks Kimiko to break his arm, and then they're all like, what the fuck? Like, it's like, okay, Huey has some balls, and he obviously does, because he's still in these situations. He doesn't just up and run away from the boys and shit, and he saves MM and Frenchie in season 1. And he is one of the reasons Compound V got exposed in season 2. See, but it's like all of that goes away. I wanted him to be hardened at this point, man. I mean, like the whole point of this season is that we're at fucking war with the Supes, with Homelander. Like Homelander's going insane, whatever. Episode 1 of this season. Look, episode 1 is like an anomaly. That shit was, I thought this season was going to be amazing after episode 1. I know some people had their problems with it, but I liked it. And for Huey, he was hardened in that moment when he walked in and Homelander had killed everyone around him. He didn't even like flinch. I mean, he made a flinch, but he was just upset because the people were innocent. But he was talking to Homelander and he was saying, fuck you, kill me, whatever. Man, like, where did that go, man? But again, to circle back, I liked that about Annie, because in that moment when he was trying to talk to Translucent's son, she was like, man, just shut the fuck up. Like, at least she was aware of the situation and she was down to do whatever she had to do. On the topic of Annie, it's pretty crazy she never gets a face-to-face with Homelander this season. I'm pretty sure they haven't talked to each other since season 3. Season 4 was all about this civil war between the Starlighters and Homelander fans, and it still continues this season, obviously, but it doesn't even feel like she's this sort of leader of a resistance. It actually doesn't feel like that at all throughout the whole season. She had that episode with her dad, which was just so boring and something they could have easily just done in season 4. You have Kripke saying these character moments are important and the ending of the show won't matter without them. Okay, well, we got more than just a moment. We got an entire episode damn near revolving this, and it had zero effect. Oh, she comes back to the boys. Well, I guess that's impactful, except the reason she left in the first place was ridiculous. And it was resolved in one episode, which was a waste of an episode entirely. It's where all the boys are fighting each other. And see, let's just move on to that. The filler. I did not expect, nor could I have ever imagined how much filler and setup for VOT Rising we would get in this season, the last season. I remember when they said Soldier Boy would be back for season 5. I thought that was odd. I just didn't think there was much left to do with that character in this story. And I was right, because he is all over the fucking place this season, man. I made a short the other day comparing his role in season 3 to Black Panther's role in Captain America Civil War. I'm not going to go through all that again, but to summarize, in season 3, Soldier Boy had his own agenda, his plan was clear, his end goal made sense, and he was fully locked in on that the entire season. This season, he has no idea what the hell is going on. He's literally in this season only to set up VOT Rising, We all know that Clara would have wanted this shit is insane. I'm not gonna waste time on that, but seriously, man, what a joke. The episode when they go to see Mr. Marathon and it's just a cameo fest. You know, some of the dialogue there was funny, but there was just that whole middle season of going after V1 that was such a waste. Honestly, let's just get into the V1 aspect right now. It was ridiculous and nothing changed from it. The dude, Homelander, he takes V1. The boys are right there witnessing it, and the next episode they're just back at their base. God knows how they got out of there. And what does Homelander do? He mocks up a fucking theme park and chokes out Soldier Boy. See, Kripke, who, by the way, is a fucking idiot, and I hope he never gets to work again, was defending the show, saying we want big action scenes and big fights every episode, and that's just wrong. But at the same time, don't put a character like Soldier Boy in a situation where he needs to be taken out if you can't make it believable within your own universe. Same with Black Noir, by the way. Homelander versus Soldier Boy fight, both on V1 too, would have been so cool. And just keep it hand to hand for God's sakes. I mean, really, even that is ridiculous, but whatever. You don't have the budget, figure something out, because to have Homelander put this dude in a chokehold and it not be an actual fight, I mean, these are arguably the most powerful soups on the planet right now. I think it's just easy to understand why that's ridiculous. So you have Soldier Boy waste almost our entire season and then just put him to sleep when it's time to wrap up this show, because we're done setting up that show. You see a lot of people saying this show should have just ended in season 3, and I have come to kind of agree. But my take on that would be maybe end the Homelander story in season 3 and move on to Soldier Boy being the main villain and leader of the 7 for the rest of the show. Obviously that would be insane because Homelander is the best character, but it would have saved us from 2 garbage seasons. Or have Soldier Boy become the main villain at the end of that season, handle it in season 4, and then season 5 be strictly focused on the boys versus Homelander. In hindsight, I think making Homelander as the main target for this long was a mistake. I think it would have been cool to have that always be the end goal, but make him like Zeus, okay? I've made some comparisons between Butcher versus Homelander and Kratos versus Zeus a lot, but I think that it works. In God of War, you go through all the gods before you reach Zeus. Maybe they could have done that with the boys, you know, have these mini bosses, soups to take care of before they reach Homelander. Now on to Homelander. It's really sad to see what they've done to this amazing character played by an amazing actor, just turning him into a Trump allegory and not even a good one. To be honest, this entire show got fucked when they started getting way too political, but Homelander especially. I touched on it in the last video, but they completely shit on this character. I'm not even talking about the death, but even him wanting to be God is just a ridiculous plot point, to be honest. Just looking back, it's like, how is that even possible? To convince everyone on the planet that he's God? I mean, Homelander is not that stupid. He is weird and he is a narcissist. He is evil. He's all these things, but he's not stupid. At least he wasn't always. See, the show just hated that we liked him. That's literally all there is to it. They hate you for liking Homelander. And people online have this twisted idea that we think Homelander was the good guy or that he did nothing wrong. Dude, he's a great character that we love to watch. Obviously, he's a villain and obviously he was gonna die. I'm sure there are some people that didn't want him to die or wanted him to win, but that's not the complaint. They've just turned him into a punching bag and he's the butt of every joke, where before he had real depth to him. And let's not forget that originally Vought was the villain. Capitalism and corporations using the soups to influence and make money was the issue. Once the twink ass pussy writers realized we liked Homelander, they started making the show pretty much the boys versus Trump. And this is apparent even in the end, where everything seems all good and dandy because Homelander's dead. But Vought is right back to where they were before this. If anything, they're even stronger now because they don't have to deal with Homelander. The fact that Stan Edgar didn't get killed or face really any consequences was ridiculous. Same with Ashley and same with Sage. Back to Homelander though, why wasn't this season focused on how crazy he's gotten? Like throughout the entire season. Or how bad he's actually made the world now that he thinks that he's God or that he's pretty much the president. We get one episode revolving the camps that he has Starlighters in, but it doesn't really even feel like the world is ending. And I use that phrase because Kripke himself, before the season came out, said that this would be their version of the apocalypse. And that just goes back to how small and cheap the season felt. He needed that crash out. Like you see these fan-made videos of online of Homelander going crazy and killing people and fighting the military, all that shit. That should have happened. Those fan-made videos are better than the actual fucking show. Even the fake leaks were more entertaining to read than this was to watch. Let's talk about the final fight at the end really quickly. Someone said it looked like a CW show, and now I cannot unsee it. Such a small enclosed fight where the power scaling is just insane. There's a point in the fight where Homelander flies Butcher and smashes his head against the ceiling and then comes back down. Okay, bro, why didn't you just fuck off and fly away right there? Take Butcher with you and drop him 1,000 feet in the air. I mean, there's just no point in going over the fight because if you're watching this, you've probably heard about it a dozen times. One last thing I want to touch on is the absence of Gen V characters. Because see, this is something I actually like. I made a short a couple years ago about Gen V, its existence overall, and how it was a mistake, or it could have been a mistake. I compared it to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the MCU, how the events of the MCU affected the TV show, but the TV show never affected the MCU. I think the boys should have followed this more closely. Instead of making it seem like Gen V was going to play a pivotal role in the boys, they should have kept it completely separate, but have the events from the boys affect that show, because otherwise it just gets messy. Not everyone is going to watch the spinoff, and you don't want to confuse people watching the main show. But since this is the direction they went, I feel bad for anyone that wasted time watching Gen V. Season 1 of Gen V was all about the virus, and that was enough, because it becomes a plot point in season 4 of the boys, but it doesn't require you to watch Gen V. If they would have had Marie come in and kill Homelander like so many people thought, that would have been absolutely ridiculous, man. I want to conclude by saying I have not seen one good argument as to why this season, and specifically the finale, were so great. You know, you have people saying it was perfect. I want to know why. To be honest, once that dude Colton from Screen Crush said it was perfect, I knew this shit was going to be ass, man. Hey, I'm just being honest. I'm talking about the finale specifically. This show was once great, man, and on track to be legendary. The writers just could not help themselves and had to inject their dog shit politics into the show, and they ruined it. I want to keep it that simple. I mean, I might make more videos going deeper as to what made it fail and what happened behind the scenes, and just, the deeper dog shit, I guess. But I wanted to just give my thoughts on the season as a whole. Let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about specifically. If you're still here, I really appreciate you watching the video, man. Let me know if you agree, disagree. I'm really interested in what the people think, man. Peace.